Hey, what it do, skid? What's happening, baby? It's your boy Big Zo, man, and you're rocking with me with Quotable Gems. What up, my gemmers? What's happening? Let me get my mic straight. Make sure my mic's straight for y'all so y'all can listen to me. What's happening, man? What's going on? I'm back with another review. You know, you're on Quotable Gems, rocking with your boy Big Zo. Cuzzle Mania world, Hey, hey man, I told you I'm gonna tap in more on stories from my city. So a few days ago we had a mass shooting. You know what I'm saying? Two people were shot, 7 people was injured. Um, I wanna say my condolences to the witnesses and everybody that was involved in the shooting. Um, yeah, that's a sad story, man, and I just wanna play a video and say my reactions on how I feel about the situation or whatever. But the video claimed that everything you saw on the news was just the beginning. Hey, this is my first time watching it. They say it dropped 20 hours ago, so it's fresh. I only got 2,000 views on it right now. So yeah, we gonna check it out and we gonna see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh
Damn.
shit!
Nah, for real. They letting off. And if you don't know where I'm from downtown in Shaco Bottom, like it can get crazy down there. But that's our form of entertainment for the city. So a lot of brown skinned or urban folk, we go down there, that's where we party and celebrate and have fun. So yeah, seeing that, man, that's crazy. Because sometimes kids can be down there, you can be enjoying time with your family, you got like graduation parties, birthday parties for kids down there too. So damn, that's crazy. I'm gonna play it from the beginning though.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Damn,
Oh shit!
damn. No, they letting
Oh
off down there though.
damn!
Like that shit crazy.
Boy, this shit crazy out here, boy.
Yeah.
Real shit.
14 seconds. That is all it took. 14 seconds of gunfire in the heart of Virginia's capital city. And when it was over, 2 people were dead, 7 were fighting for their lives, and an entire community was left asking one question that nobody seems to have the answer to. How does this keep happening? Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Commonwealth, a city with centuries of history, real culture, and a nightlife district that
That's
draws
downtown.
thousands of people every
That's how downtown look.
single weekend. Shaco Bottom, North 18th Street, restaurants, clubs, music, the kind of place people go to unwind, celebrate, and just live their lives. That is exactly what one family came to do on the night of Friday, February 20th, going into the early hours of Saturday, February 21st, 2026. They came from Petersburg, Virginia, just a short drive up the road to celebrate a birthday, a 25th birthday. Brothers together, family together, good energy, good vibes. Nobody came looking for trouble that night, and right in the middle of all of that was Genesis. Genesis Tamar Jones, 23 years old. Petersburg, Virginia, the youngest of 4 children, the only girl surrounded by 3 older brothers who loved her fiercely. By every account from everyone who knew her, Genesis was the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately made it better just by being there. Her oldest brother described her like this: Genesis had a way of making you feel comfortable being around her. She was herself at all times and full of energy and laughter. She could effortlessly make you laugh. She had a lot of potential and was finally coming into herself as a young woman. 23 years old, just getting started. Her brother Zakaya was with the family that night. He was standing outside Margarita's cantina when the shots rang out. And in a moment that tells you everything about how deeply this loss hit, he spoke to cameras just hours after it happened.
We were outside of Margaritas. We heard a few shots go off, like 10 to 15 shots. One of them actually went past my head and hit the building. And then,
damn. You know how that feel, bro? Hearing some zip right past your head, bro. And thinking about like, damn, that was just centimeters away from me, bro. That's a crazy feeling.
we thought nothing of it because, you know, people shoot all the time in Richmond, especially Shaco Bottom. Then some of my sister's friends drove up, and there was like, your little sister she was one of the victims, and she was no longer living, you know, was deceased, a part of.
What did you go? I mean, obviously it had to be shocking.
I think she was just here. I was just with her. I think it's more so shocking. Like I said, she was so young, 23. You know, she didn't have a chance to really live life yet. But you know, they say, you know, everybody serves their purpose. So I guess whatever her purpose was, whatever her calling was, she served it. But 23, that's just, she's still a baby. She was still a baby. She still is our baby.
What was the argument about that led to the gunfire?
I don't know anything of it. They just say like, you know, verbal altercations, but you know, nothing that leads.
She wasn't part of it. She just got caught in the crossfire.
From what the police are telling me, she was not a part of it, and I don't see her being a part of it being due to it was our little brother's birthday celebration and things of that nature. So I know she was on good time and good vibes. She just wanted everybody to have a good time and get along.
They were just looking for a good time. By the time the sun came up that Saturday morning, Zakaya and his family had returned to the scene, standing on the same street where his sister had taken her last breath just hours before. And he said something that should stay with every single person watching this clip.
We were here to celebrate, and now we're leaving this celebratory moment in grief, and that's just no way that I wouldn't want to feel or anybody else to feel.
Here, my younger brother's birthday was today, so we'll never forget this day. A day that was supposed to be a celebration permanently sealed in that family's memory as the day they lost their baby sister. Now let's talk about the other life that was lost that night, because his story deserves to be told too. Dominic Antoine Jackson, 42 years old, Henrico County, Virginia, a father of two, and according to his family, he was weeks away from becoming a grandfather for the very first time. A man on the edge of one of life's greatest milestone, and he never got there. Two people, two completely different stages of life. One just stepping into her future, one standing at the door of a brand new chapter. Both gone before the sun came up on February 21st. Now, before we get into exactly what happened that night, you need to understand something about Shaco Bottom, because this shooting did not happen in a vacuum. And if we are going to have an honest conversation about it, we have to go deeper than the headlines. Shaco Bottom has been Richmond's entertainment district for decades. After a flood wall was completed in 1995 that finally protected the area from frequent flooding, developers moved in, converted old warehouses into apartments and restaurants, and the neighborhood became the place to be on a Friday and Saturday night in Richmond. But almost as quickly as the good times came, so did the violence. As far back as 2004, Richmond police were already ramping up patrols in Shaco Bottom after a separate shooting incident that left 9 people shot in that same neighborhood. In 2010, another wave of violence forced Richmond City Council to require nightclubs to obtain operating permits just to keep their doors open. And then in September of 2025, just 5 months before this shooting, Richmond police had already increased patrols in Shaco Bottom again in direct response to repeated safety issues in the area. So when people ask how this happened, the honest answer is that the warning signs were there. They had been there for a very long time. A Richmond resident named Brody Lane, who lives just blocks from where the shooting happened, put it plainly when he spoke to reporters.
This is not the first time, even on this street, in front of that exact same club, that we've had a similar incident. We have police presence out here every single weekend that blocks off the streets, and like what are they doing to prevent these things from happening?
That is a fair question, and it is one that city leaders are still trying to answer. But here is something else worth understanding before we get to what happened on the night of February 21st. Richmond, Virginia seizes more than 1,800 guns off the streets every single year, every year. It was a relatively quiet night in Shaco Bottom by the area's own standards. Officers were present and on patrol. The bars and clubs closed at 2 a.m. as required by law. But closing time did not mean the streets emptied out. What has been happening in Shaco Bottom for years, according to business owners who operate there, is that people leave other parts of the city after 2 a.m. and come to Shaco Bottom specifically to keep the night going. Open drinking in the streets, large crowds gathering in parking lots and open spaces well after businesses close. The party shifting from inside to outside with no structure, no oversight, and no accountability. Jackie.
Yeah, that's how it is. Because when the clubs let out, shit, everybody, I mean, everywhere. Like, even if you don't go to the clubs in Shaco Bottom, we always tend to come back to Shaco Bottom. Like, even after the clubs let out, everybody go to the bottom. They ride around, post up, see what's going on, peep the vibe. Like, yeah, that's exactly what was going on. So, hey, yeah.
Bishop Wells, who owns a club in the area called Fallout, described exactly what this looks like on any given weekend night. Open drinking is happening in the streets. People are leaving other areas of the city at 2 a.m. to come to Shaco Bottom after 2 a.m. to gather to keep the party going. And on this particular night, two groups of people who were gathered on North 18th Street after the bars closed got into a verbal argument. Nobody knows for certain what started it. Police investigated whether the two groups may have encountered each other earlier in the evening. What the surveillance footage showed footage that multiple people had already been recording on their phones before a single shot was fired was a verbal argument that escalated into a physical fight, and then people went to their cars. Chief Edwards confirmed this detail specifically. People went to their cars where loaded guns were either stored or left accessible and came back to that fight armed.
This did not originate in a club, and all the bars were closed at 2 a.m. This was people hanging out on the streets. Two groups of individuals started fighting. Multiple people entered that fight with firearms in hand, and shots rang out from multiple different individuals.
Multiple people, multiple firearms, multiple shooters, all on one block. At 2:47 a.m., a female officer who was already patrolling Shaco Bottom spotted what she described as a large commotion in the middle of the block. Cars speeding away, people scattering in every direction. She responded within seconds, and what she found stopped everything. A young woman down on the pavement, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. That young woman was Genesis Jones. She was pronounced dead at the scene before the first 911 call even came in. Other officers arrived within moments and found a second victim, Dominic Antoine Jackson, also down, also unresponsive. He was pronounced dead at the scene as well. In total, 9 people were shot that night. 3 men and 4 women were taken to hospitals by Richmond Ambulance Authority. 3 more people drove themselves to hospitals in private vehicles. 1 woman was in critical, life-threatening condition. And all of this happened in 14 seconds. 14 seconds from the first shot to the last. Over 50 shell casings recovered. Evidence placards numbering into the 60s. At least 4 different caliber rounds identified, meaning this was not one person with one gun. This was chaos. 6 vehicles towed as evidence. 2 firearms recovered at the scene, but investigators believed more weapons had been involved and were still unaccounted for. The ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, was called in to assist Richmond police with ballistic analysis. Chief Edwards called it one of the largest crime scenes his department had ever processed.
Over 50 cartridge casings were recovered, multiple firearms. We towed 6 cars. The surveillance footage we've seen, people were filming the fight ahead of time. So we need those individuals who left the scene to provide that to our investigators.
People were filming the fight on their phones before the shooting even started, which means there is video evidence out there. Evidence that could identify every single person who pulled a trigger that night. Evidence that could bring justice to the families of Genesis Jones and Dominic Jackson. And some of it is still sitting in somebody's phone in somebody's camera roll right now. That is not a small thing. By Saturday afternoon, just hours after the shooting, Richmond Mayor Danny Avila and Police Chief Rick Edwards stood before cameras and the city they are responsible for protecting. And the mayor did not mince words.
This is absolutely unacceptable. This is not how people want to live. It's not what our city is about. It is not what the residents of our city deserve.
And while the mayor was speaking those words, Zakaya Jones was somewhere in that same city trying to hold himself together long enough to tell the world who his sister was. He had been standing outside Margarita's cantina when the shots rang out. He heard them, 10 to 15 of them, and in a moment that says everything about how normalized this violence has become in that area, his first reaction was not panic. It was not alarm. It was nothing.
We were outside of Margarita's. We heard a few shots go off. Like 10 to 15 shots. One of them actually went past my head and hit the building. And then we thought nothing of it because, people shoot all the time in Richmond, especially Shaco Bottom. Then some of my sister's friends drove up and there was like, your little sister she was one of the victims and she was no longer living, was deceased.
He did not think anything of it, because that is Shaco Bottom. A man hears 10 to 15 gunshots in a busy entertainment district, and his first instinct is not alarm, because he has heard it before, because somewhere along the way it became expected. That one sentence tells you more about the state of gun violence in this country than any statistic ever could. One of those bullets passed within inches of Zakaya's own head before hitting a building behind him. He did not know that yet when he heard the shots. He found out moments later when friends ran to tell him that Genesis had been hit. By the time the sun came up on Saturday morning, detectives were still on the scene. They would stay there until almost noon, combing through what Chief Edwards himself described as one of the largest crime scenes Richmond law enforcement had ever processed. 6 cars towed, 50-plus shell casings bagged and cataloged, surveillance footage being pulled from every camera in the area, flock safety cameras, business cameras, personal phone footage being submitted by community members who were there. And somewhere out...
Why you bullshitting? Man, sound like these niggas just shooting, bro. Dang. They just shooting, man. Hitting any fucking body, anything. Just fucking shoot.
Out in that neighborhood, more guns that had not yet been found. The investigation was just beginning, and the city was already demanding answers. Now here is something that needs to be addressed directly because it came up almost immediately after this story broke, and it deserves an honest conversation. Some people online and even some business owners in the area pushed back on the term mass shooting being used to describe what happened on North 18th Street. The argument being made was that this was a gunfight between two groups, not a premeditated attack on a crowd by a single shooter. And look, that is a conversation worth having. But here is the reality that does not change regardless of what label you put on it. 9 people were shot, 2 people died, 7 others were rushed to hospitals. A 23-year-old woman who had absolutely nothing to do with any argument, who was simply walking down the street celebrating her brother's birthday, was killed by gunfire she never saw coming. Whatever you want to call it, the outcome was the same. 2 families are planning funerals. 7 other families are sitting in hospital waiting rooms, and a community is left grieving. The label matters far less than the lives. Now let's talk about what the investigation actually looked like in those first critical days, because there are details here that most coverage glossed over. Right. Chief Edwards confirmed early on that the guns used in this shooting were not guns that people had on their person when the fight started. They went to their cars mid-fight. In the middle of a physical altercation on a public street, people walked away from that fight, went to vehicles parked in the area, retrieved loaded firearms, and came back. That detail changes everything about how you understand what happened, because it means there was a moment, a deliberate moment where a choice was made. The choice to go get a gun instead of walking away. Exactly. And that choice cost 2 people their lives and put 7 more in the hospital.
So that means it was premeditated. If you had a choice or a chance to go to your car and get your weapon, that means you had a chance to double think. You had a chance to rethink. So it's different versus having it already on you and just doing something, just blanking out. But you had a choice by going to your car. You could have changed your mind. So that's what they're saying.
Chief Edwards addressed the car gun issue specifically and pushed for legislation to address it.
The sheer amount of guns that are on the streets of our city is shocking. Leave your guns at home. You can't make good decisions, and you can't have a normal fight if you're armed.
If you're intoxicated too.
If everyone is armed, because it ends in tragedies like what we saw this morning.
He also pushed for a bill in the Virginia General Assembly that would make it a Class 4 misdemeanor to leave a gun unattended in a vehicle. Because right now in the state of Virginia, there is no law that stops someone from leaving a loaded firearm sitting on their front seat in a parking lot in the middle of a nightlife district at 2 a.m. Is that the kind of legal gap that gets people killed? The evidence says yes. Within 72 hours of the shooting, Chief Edwards was back before cameras with a progress update on the investigation. He confirmed that his team had met with federal and state partners. He confirmed that the FBI tip line was now open and accepting video submissions from the public. And he made clear that while progress was being made, he was not ready to show his hand publicly. He also confirmed something worth noting. When asked directly whether any of the suspects might be connected to other crimes in the city, he would not confirm or deny it. That is the kind of non-answer that tells you the investigation goes deeper than what is being shared with the public.
Yes.
And honestly, that is probably exactly how it should be at this stage. You do not tip off suspects by announcing what you know before you are ready to move. But for the families of Genesis Jones and Dominic Jackson, every single day without an arrest is another day without justice. And that weight does not get lighter with time. One of the most powerful tools investigators had at their disposal in this case was not technology. It was not the ATF. It was not the FBI. It was the community. Chief Edwards confirmed that community members had already been sending in video footage voluntarily, but there was more out there. Footage from people who left the scene without coming forward. Footage from people who may not have even realized what they captured. Footage that could be the difference between this case being solved and the people responsible for the deaths of Genesis Jones and Dominic Jackson walking free. If you were there that night, if you know someone who was, if you have footage sitting in your phone right now, that information matters. It always matters. Now let's talk about the broader response from the city, because what happened in the days after this shooting revealed something important about where Richmond is as a city right now. Multiple conversations were happening simultaneously. Law enforcement, City Hall, the Virginia General Assembly, business owners, community activists, residents. Everyone had something to say, and not everyone agreed on the path forward. The first proposal on the table was turning Shaco Bottom into a designated gun-free zone. It sounded like a direct solution, but it ran into walls almost immediately. So the gun-free zone idea, which many residents and city leaders genuinely supported, was pushed to at least 2027 by the General Assembly. Not this year, not even next year's first session, 2027 at the earliest. 2 people are dead right now. And the legislative solution that many believe could help prevent the next tragedy is at least a year away from even being considered. The second proposal on the table was a community ambassador program. Mayor Avila laid out the vision.
And when everybody's out and they're enjoying themselves, they would come out and there would be community ambassadors who would be roaming the streets, who would be a resource, and as clubs are closing down, would actually shepherd people home. And so that's part of the strategy that we're working on, pulling funding together for, hiring and training up folks for, that we had planned to launch early summer.
Unarmed community workers deployed after 2 a.m., helping people get home safely instead of lingering on the streets after bars close, creating a presence that is about de-escalation and community, not enforcement. It is not a perfect solution on its own. Some business owners were openly skeptical about whether unarmed ambassadors could realistically handle situations when large crowds and alcohol are already in the mix. But it was something concrete, and Mayor Avila committed to having it operational by early summer, with the timeline moved up specifically because of what happened on February 21st. But here is something that adds another layer to this conversation. This idea, the ambassador idea, was not new. Months before this shooting, a community initiative called Shaco Shine had already been in development. The director Venuti had been meeting with city leaders and business owners for months, building out a plan that included a nightlife ambassador program as one of its core components. The program was supposed to launch that summer. This shooting happened before it ever got off the ground. The third proposal came directly from business owners, and it was arguably the most straightforward of all. Move the closing time back. Instead of bars and clubs closing at 2 a.m., move last call earlier. Reduce the window of time when large, unstructured crowds are gathering on the streets in the late night and early morning hours with nowhere to go and nothing to do. Because as multiple business owners pointed out, the violence is not happening at 10 p.m. It is happening consistently in that window after bars close, when people are already worked up, already drinking, already in the street with no structure around them. And then there is what everyone agreed on regardless of which solution they preferred. The police presence in Shaco Bottom had to change. But perhaps the most powerful moment in the days following this shooting did not happen on North 18th Street. It did not happen at a press conference. It did not happen at a community meeting. It happened on the floor of the Virginia State Senate. A senator from Eastern Henrico rose from her seat and she spoke directly about Genesis Jones, not as a statistic, not as a crime case number, but as a human being, a daughter, a sister, a young woman whose name deserved to be spoken in the halls of the Commonwealth's legislature.
Undertone here, the year's first great horror movie. It's absolute nightmare fuel.
Madam President, over the weekend, a devastating tragedy occurred here in our Commonwealth, right here in Richmond. And today I rise to uplift the life of Genesis Jones of Petersburg. Madam President, as a human being first, and then as a mom, when I heard about this tragedy, the details didn't matter. The circumstances didn't matter. What mattered was that today there are families in my communities who are carrying the unbearable pain of knowing they will never see their loved ones again. Madam President, Genesis Jones, the daughter of Tamar Jones and Markel Jones, was a 23-year-old young woman whose life did not deserve to be cut short by gun violence. Genesis was more than a headline. She was a daughter, a friend, a member of her community. She was a 23 years old, an age filled with ambition, possibility, and the promise of a future still unfolding. Her dreams, her contributions, and the life she was building was taken far too soon. Her oldest brother, Madam President, shared with me that Genesis had a way of making you feel comfortable being around her. She was herself at all times and full of energy and laughter. She could effortlessly make you laugh. She had a lot of potential and was finally coming into herself as a young woman. But now she's been robbed of that. My sister had an impact on so many. Madam President, I rise today not only to mourn her loss, but to recognize the profound impact that loss has had on her loved ones and on the broader community that I represent. Madam President, no family should have...
Because that shit was wild. And when them boys get caught, man, they going down. That's just what it is. They going down.
...have to endure the pain of losing a child to violence. And no community should grow accustomed to the...
That could have been my sister, my cousin, auntie, my grandma, man. That could have been. Come on, man. People ain't had nothing to do with nothing, bro. You already know. People already know the street code is children and women stay out of it, dog. If they knew, they knew. But I guess these young niggas don't know the code.
Grief that arrives with such devastating regularity. Genesis' name deserves to be spoken in this chamber, and she deserves to be remembered with dignity. Madam President, her memory calls on us to reflect on the value of every life, on the safety of our neighborhoods, and on our responsibility as leaders to work to ensure that we fight for a Commonwealth where young people, and all people, quite frankly, can pursue their futures without fear. Madam President, today I extend my deepest condolences to Genesis' family and friends, and to every family that was affected by this senseless act of violence. Thank you.
She deserves to be remembered with dignity. Genesis Tamar Jones, daughter of Tangi and Markeel, baby sister of 3 brothers who loved her beyond measure, 23 years old, finally coming into herself, gone in 14 seconds. As of February 25th, 2026, 4 days after the shooting, no arrests had been made. Let that land for a moment. 14 seconds of gunfire, over 50 shell casings, multiple shooters, 6 cars towed, a TF called in, FBI tip line opened, surveillance footage collected from multiple cameras across the neighborhood, dozens of witnesses, people who were standing right there on that street recording video on their phones before the first shot was even fired, and still no arrests. Now, to be fair, and this is important, Chief Edwards made it very clear that the investigation was actively moving forward. He met with federal and state partners. His team was working around the clock. The ATF...
Oh yeah, because the pressure on that ass, bro. They gonna want to know who did what, when, how. The pressure on y'all ass, RPD.
was running ballistic analysis. The FBI was processing tip line submissions, and he was deliberate about not showing his hand.
Feds on this case now.
And before the time was right, he also confirmed something that raised additional questions. When asked directly whether any of the suspects might be connected to other crimes in the city, he would not confirm or deny it. That is the kind of carefully worded non-answer that tells you the investigation reaches further than what is being shared publicly. And that is probably exactly how it should be. You do not tip off suspects by announcing what you know before you are ready to move on them.
Right.
But for Zakaya Jones, for Tangi, and Markeel Jones, for the 2 children that Dominic Jackson left behind, and for the grandchild he never got to meet every single day without an arrest, is another day without answers. And that weight does not get lighter with time. There is something deeply uncomfortable about watching a street return to normal after something like this. The same intersection, the same storefronts, the same Saturday night energy building back up as if 2 people did not lose their lives right there just days before. But that is also exactly why this story cannot be allowed to fade. Because the moment it fades, the moment it becomes just another shooting in just another city, is the moment the people responsible for what happened on February 21st feel like they got away with it. And the key to making sure that does not happen is the community. And here is the lesson that this story carries, and it is not a comfortable one. When you bring a gun into a social setting, into a night out, into a space filled with people who are just trying to enjoy themselves, you are not protecting yourself. You are creating a situation where a disagreement that could have ended in hurt feelings or maybe a bruised ego ends in a body on the pavement. Chief.
Long story short, bro. Take your lick, bro. It started off with a fight, bro. If you lost, bro. Man, take that lick, man. Take that ass whooping. Nigga must apply some pressure on that ass. Take that ass whooping. Come on, man. Innocent people getting hit. You ain't even hitting the people you motherfucking beefing with. You ain't even hitting the people you got in a fight with. Come on, man. These niggas go learn. They gonna learn. Cause nigga, you going down. Going down. That's my gym. Take your motherfucking lick, nigga. Take that ass whoop. Big Zo. Quotable James. I'm out here.
Tell me who hot is me. Nigga, I'm a prodigy. Tell me who's stopping me. You haters ain't blocking me.